Hey everybody, it's Wintermute. So I wanted to do this video right after I did the Monopoly one, for obvious reasons, because the you tell people, oh yeah, I'm big into board gaming and kind of more advanced board gaming, and they're like, oh, is that Monopoly a risk? And whenever somebody says that, usually the more advanced board gamers' response is, you can see the jawline tighten, the lips kind of go narrow, the brow kind of furrow, the face get hard. You can see the response coming. It's like, no, not like Monopoly or Risk, because those are probably the two most hated board games amongst board gamers once they stop being once they get into board gaming in a deeper kind of sense. And yeah, I kind of feel like Monopoly deserves some of that hate. Now, what about Risk? Does Risk deserve some of that bad rep it gets amongst gamers in general, board gamers in general? In a nutshell, I don't think it should. I think that it's a misunderstood game. And I think it's all summed up with the name itself. Risk. When I play Risk, now it's been a while since I played Risk, but I played it again a couple years ago. And this is when I kind of came to this conclusion about it. And I realized that at its core, Risk is a push your luck style game that has strong dudes on a map / strategy elements to it. But it's really more about pushing your luck. It's almost like playing blackjack in some ways. You get in there and here's the big difference between Risk and Monopoly. In Monopoly, your decisions have little to no impact on the game because you have no idea how those die rolls are going to turn out. Risk, there are a lot of decisions you make that have a direct impact on your performance in the game. Now, in terms of compared to other board, Risk is definitely not a Euro style board game. It's definitely more of the Ameritrash rather than Eurotrash style board game. And because of that, I think Risk gets a bad rap. And we've all played, those of us who have played Risk all remember we go into a zone with 30 guys, and there's 2 defenders, and those 2 defenders take out 20 of our 30 troops before we finally win, and then our entire strategy is shot because we don't have enough guys to push farther into the continent. And I think those are what people remember about playing Risk. And that's where they get that takeaway of, man, this game sucks. But you took the risk. You knew there was a risk there. You knew that there was a chance you could just roll bad turn after turn after turn after turn and have your army ground to dust. At any point, you could have just stopped and said, all right, well, I'm going to fall back and kind of reassess things. But you took the risk to push forward with things. Even from setup, the way you set up, there's actual meaningful decisions with how you set the game up. And I actually like the way Risk gets set up, where you put your troops out kind of in an order. And so it's not preset. You're already having to think, where am I gonna have to focus my firepower? Where am I gonna have to put my troops? Am I gonna fight for Fortress Australia? Am I gonna try and go into Russia and kind of spread out into North America? Those are meaningful decisions. Those are meaningful decisions that will have an impact on the game. You also have the decision of, well, I have 3 cannons and 3 this and 3 that, whatever the case is. But do I wait to get like the 1 of each? Do I wait to get the better return on my investment? Do I hold my cards to finally get a real big push? Or am I shooting myself in the foot? Ari, can you get them to stop? The dogs are fighting for some reason. You get the, you've got to make that decision. Or if I don't get some guys out there, if I don't put some troops out there, am I going to get overwhelmed? So there's a lot of meaningful decisions in Risk. But it is overshadowed by the die rolling. But I think, and so personally, I'm not going to probably play Risk again because for that reason, it's just the randomness is too much. But I don't think it deserves the hate that it gets. And you can draw direct parallels to the way Risk works to pretty much any dudes on a map kind of game, Axis and Allies style game. How many times have you been rolling a combat and you're like, okay, this didn't go quite like I'd hoped with this attack, but if I go one more round, even though it's a little risky, man, the chance to dig into his good stuff, start taking out his tanks, maybe get really lucky and take out a fighter before I have to retreat. You know, that's a risky decision, and you're doing a calculated risk with that. You know, or I could pull back right now, save my guys to fight another day, but he's going to have all of his good stuff ready to go on his turn, and you know, you got to weigh the pros and cons. You know, is it worth it? And that's where I think you can see, you know, a lot of what happens in Risk, you can see in modern board games that you know, war style board games from Kemet to Global War. You know, to Axis and Allies, and there's a lot of there's a lot of dudes in the map type games out there. But you know, in all of these games, you can see the underpinning of Risk being there, and the calculations being there. Now, more modern Risk style games or Action Ally style games, they're not anywhere near as random, but there's still risk involved with any attack you do. Any attack you do has risk, because you never know when that lonely little militia is going to actually score that hit, and now you're forced in a position with, wow, do I lose my one infantry or do I lose my fighter? Is it worth taking this turn? So all that to say, I don't think Risk deserves a lot of the hate that it gets. I think it's a misunderstood game. I think that it is actually a decent game, but it's not the kind of game I'm going to play at this point, because I've played more kind of advanced, more historical board games that you know, that have a basis in history. I mean, Risk really, and I've played other versions of Risk, and some versions of Risk are great, like Risk 2045 or 2245, the sci-fi version of Risk. That was actually a really good game. Absolutely. It had all the basic elements of Risk there, but it had other elements that made it fun on its own merit. So yeah, all this to say, Risk doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. It's actually a good game that is worth playing. You know, especially every once in a while, pull it out, dust it off, and play it. But it doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. I think Risk is a solid game. If not a game that I would play again, it's still a solid game. So that's my take on Risk. What do you guys think?